What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I am finally going to be reviewing my brand new Medford Praetorian tie. If you watched last Saturday's unboxing, you'll know that I finally got my hands on one of my dream knives. I'm really excited about this. Can't wait to talk about it. You guys don't normally get a review on Saturdays. Usually it's a top 5 or top 10, or if it's a discussion video or something crazy. But I thought this might be a good day to review this because there'll be a lot more people watching. I can explain, my reasoning behind acquiring this knife, and I can also give a good, honest, critical review of this very polarizing knife that has been in everybody's face for so long. So I'm really excited to do that. Before I do, I just want to remind everybody again that I do have this beautiful ProTech Master Mordax to give away the moment that I hit 50 patrons. I am halfway to that goal already at the time of this video. Just about halfway. That is amazing. Thank you so much to everybody who has been supporting me and helping out. I imagine a lot of you are just excited to have this knife available as a giveaway, but I also know that there's just some genuinely really nice people out there who are just supporting me just because. So if you don't know the details on that, basically the moment that I hit 50 patrons, I'm going to open up a free to enter giveaway for everybody. You don't have to be a patron. You don't even have to be subscribed to me. You just basically have to be paying attention. So once that hits, I'll open that up. You can enter as long as you're at least 18 years of age and can provide me with an address inside the continental United States. At this time, if you become a patron, even if you just join the $1 tier, you will get a free shout out, or you can make me tell a joke, you can make me say something funny, you can make fun of me, whatever you want, as long as it's appropriate for YouTube. If you want more details on that, just follow the link in the description to my Patreon. Have a look around, look at the tiers, there's some fun stuff in there. And then read the bold text right there at the front, and it'll kind of explain everything. But anyways, thank you so much to everybody who has supported me. Let's move in to the actual review here. Let's take a measurement real quick of this monster. Every time I pick this thing up and put it back down, it's going to shake the table. It's huge, and I'm actually reviewing on a card table for anybody who doesn't know. Overall length of this gigantic knife. If you go tip to the back of the handle, it's about 8.5 inches, but if you go all the way to the breaker, it's like 8.75, or maybe just a hair longer. From tip to scale, you're looking at 4 inches in places, maybe 3.75 in other places. The blade length, the actual cutting edge, is about is it more? It's almost 3.75 inches of cutting edge right there. 3.6, maybe something like that. Let's do some size comparisons. I'm going to be adding a couple of knives in here, just given the nature of this knife. I only own one knife that's actually longer right now. So first up, let's do the Microtech SOCOM Elite. The SOCOM Elite is coming in at about 9.18 something inches. I don't know, some odd measurement. It's just a hair longer than the Praetorian tie. So those of you who own this knife, you know how big it is. Just imagine taller and thicker. How about up against the the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall. Again, dwarfed by the Praetorian tie. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? The PM2 is coming in at 8.3 inches overall. Trying to get the butt back there so you can get an actual size. How about up against the let's do the Hinder XM18. Up against a Hinder XM18. XM18 coming in at 8.25 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. And last but not least, completely meaningless size comparison. How about up against the Spyderco Delica? Delica coming in at 7 inches. So we've thoroughly established that this knife is an absolute monstrosity. It's a monolith beyond comprehension. It's just freaking huge. I'm going to give you an example of the action here. This is not it's not on bearings. It's on phosphor bronze. This is not a knife that's known for having like drop shitty action or anything like that. It was extremely stiff when I got it because this was basically a brand new knife. It has very much loosened up. It's much smoother. I can actually get it to pop out with one finger, and I can get it to deploy with one hand. That was impossible when I got it. Medfords always break in. I'm very used to that. It's no different with this one. So let's weigh it. I'm excited to officially weigh it because I haven't done it yet. I've seen basically what it weighs when I look it up on different websites, but I'm excited to weigh it. Oh my God. 11.71 ounces. Let's weigh it again. Yeah, 11.75 ounces. So this is just shy of a 12-ounce knife. It looks like a 12-ounce knife. Honestly, it looks like it weighs about a pound. So I guess that's something to say. It actually is lighter than what it looks like. But basically what we are to gain in knowledge from that weight is that for the majority of us, that is simply way too heavy. Now, keep in mind, guys, whatever you think of Greg Medford, his knives, blah, 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 I want you to keep in mind that you're going to get an honest, critical review of the Medford Praetorian tie from a person who just likes it beyond all the logical complaints of it, beyond whether or not it's even utilitarian. I'm somebody who likes it. But at the same time, I will admit when things are just not going to work out for the majority of people. The weight right off the bat, 12 ounces plus this carry profile. Now, if you're just a regular civilian and you're walking around in, khaki pants or you're walking around in athletic shorts, this doesn't make any sense. I watched a review the other day where somebody said, I wear, basketball shorts every day and I carry this and I don't have a problem with it. What? Are you serious? How are your pants still on? You walk around in basketball shorts with this thing? No way. I'll tell you this right now. I'm in jeans and I wear a belt. I have put this thing in my pocket. Surprisingly, the pocket clip does a good job, but it takes up so much room and it's heavy, and you will be aware of this thing in your pocket at all moments of time. It is heavy. Now, is that to say that, let's say there are a few of you out there who are like, well, I'm planning on buying one and I'm planning on actually carrying it. Will I get used to it? Yeah, you probably will. You'll probably get used to it like anything else. If you watch Greg Medford's channel, he occasionally does carry a full-size Praetorian tie. And I would say, jeans makes sense. If you're going to force yourself to carry this and you're going to, want to try and get used to it, if you wear jeans all the time or you work outside and you've got heavy-duty pants, then yeah, that's going to be fine. But honestly, you're not going to get anything else inside the pocket with this knife. A knife that's notorious for being tall is the PM2. Not even close with the Praetorian. The Praetorian is way, way taller than even the PM2 or other knives that are notorious for being really, really tall. I should point this out. For anybody who's not familiar with the Praetorian line, there are a ton of different sizes and dimensions. This is the biggest, thickest, most expensive version that they make. You're looking at a blade stock thickness of 1/4 inch, or actually, officially, it's 0.26, so a little over 1/4 inch. You're looking at scale thickness of 0.19, not 0.187. I actually had somebody comment and say, hey, isn't that supposed to be like, isn't the Praetorian tie like the bigger, thicker one? I think he was looking at the scales and thinking those scales don't look that thick. It's because in contrast with the blade, they don't. But just so you guys know, the blade stock thickness on this Microtech SOCOM Elite is 0.187. That's thick. This is a big knife, right? You can see here when I hold it up to the scale, it's the exact same thickness as the scale. Can I get it to focus? Kind of, yeah. So the blade stock thickness there is the same. So these are 190 thousandths or 0.19 inches thick. So the entire thing is just massive. Then they have the T, which has been shown on this channel, the full-size T. That's the one that made me, that got me to the decision that I needed the tie. That one's got a 0.19 stock thickness blade. So the blade is as thick as the scales, and the scales are 125 thousandths thick, or roughly the same thickness as the blade on the Ritter Hogue. That is still a gigantic knife that I find impractical for carry. But if you were going to carry one of the full-size ones, the T is definitely easier. That one only weighs like 7 point something, maybe 8 ounces. That's still a lot, but way less than this guy. Then you have the Genesis, which is the medium-sized one. They make a Genesis tie in the same thickness as this knife and same thickness as scales, just not as long. I want to say that one's like 7.75 inches overall, maybe 8. And then you have the thinner version of it, just the Genesis, which I believe is the same dimensions as the T, just shorter. Then you have the Micro Praetorian, which comes in the standard slim form like the T and the standard Genesis. And then you have for whatever reason, a Micro Praetorian tie that's actually way smaller. It's like this, but it's as thick as the Praetorian tie in blade and scale. I don't know why you would do that, but those are available. And actually, you know what? No, I do know why. Because of people like me who just like this stuff. Most of us know it's not practical. We just like it, you know? Now, between all that stuff, you have options for the blade. You have 2 options for the blade in terms of the shape. You have the drop point, which is this guy, and then you have the Tanto, which I've owned in the T. If you want to see what the Tanto looks like, go back on my channel, take a look at the Praetorian T that I got from DLT Trading and S90V, and you can take a look at that Tanto blade shape. That's available across the board. If you go to their website, for each one of these different knives, just like all the knives on their website, there's drop-down menus for all the different options that you can have. Some knives have the option for D2 steel and S35VN and 3V, and some don't. As far as I know, for the Praetorian line, you can get all 3 steels in any size, any thickness, whatever. This one happens to be S35VN, which is what I was looking for because I knew that once I got it, it would sit and be protected and not be used. And I've already had people comment and say, "Why'd you even buy it if you're not going to use it?" Listen, I don't care. I'm not going to use this. That's not what I bought it for. I've got plenty of knives that I use. Plenty. This is a collector piece to me. That's why I bought it. Anyways, I wanted it in S35VN, and I wanted this high polished satin finish because it would be the least likely to corrode of all the options that Medford offers. Having it sit in my display case or just, playing with it and just oiling it every so often, less likely than D2 or 3V to corrode. If you're going to use it, totally different story. Honestly, I think if you're going to use it in these dimensions, probably his D2. And by the way, Medford's D2 is CPM D2. It is American Crucible D2. Somebody asked me that the other day. They said, "Are you sure?" I feel like it's just regular D2. It's not. Medford uses CPM D2, which is premium D2. Anyways, maybe 3V or D2 would be better. Dimensionally, I mean, it's hard to say what these knives would be good for because of the dimensions. But we're going to get into that. I just kind of wanted to cover everything. There's multiple finishes that you can get for these knives. There's satin that you're seeing here. There's tumbled. There's PVD coated. There's the Vulcan finish, which everybody likes. When you do a Vulcan finish, you always get something random and unique. It's never the same. As far as the scales go, you can get bronze ano, blue ano. You can get flamed ano. They also do crazy custom stuff where, it's kind of like a one-off. If you subscribe to their channel, you can watch and see what's going to be available at retailers, and they go over things, and then I really like that one. I really like that size, and it's anode green. I really want that. You can do that, and that's what's cool. I like that. It's something that I really appreciate about Medford knives is not only do I have a bunch of choices, but, there's really fun kind of rare stuff, and I think that's why a lot of people collect Medfords is because there are tons of unique and rare stuff that pops out every now and then. And they'll say, "Hey, this one, we've only ever done this once. This is a unique one. It's crazy." And oftentimes you don't get charged more money just for the uniqueness. You get charged for what they normally charge for the finish itself. The fact that it came out super unique doesn't yield any extra charge. Now that's aside from the fact that Medfords tend to be really expensive in general. The base price of this knife, for example, which would be not satin finished and D2, is $1,200 direct from Medford. But good luck finding it for that on the secondary market, which is generally what people turn to because the lead time to get a Praetorian once you order it, I think, is still like over 30 weeks. I don't know that for sure. I honestly didn't check. Maybe it's less now, but what I can say for sure is it takes a long time to get one. They're backed up because their knives are so popular. And certain models especially, it just takes a long time. So a lot of people turn to the secondary market and they purchase these knives for way more money than that. Way, way, way more money. You go to Arizona Custom Knives right now and you'll see, one just like this that's blue they're asking $1,700 for it. So these still, regardless of your feelings about this knife and whether or not it's practical and whether or not you like how it looks, it doesn't matter. People pay a lot of money for these things, and that's why I jumped on this one, because I got a ridiculously good deal on it, and that's the only way that I was gonna get it, other than just, you know, paying Medford and waiting forever and ever and ever, which I could have done, but I just, you know, it's like you want it now. Anyways, we kind of got off track there. We're already at 15 minutes. But moving down the blade here, what we have is a satin finish drop point blade. Beautiful, beautiful satin finish. I honestly did not know that this is how good the finish looked on the satin finish Medfords until I had it in hand. So that's really, really cool. You can see there the Medford logo and the S standing for S35VN. D would be D2. 3 would be 3V. If you see a 9, it means S90V, which is an exclusive run through DLT Trading, but that's not on Praetorian ties. It's only on the T models. So you're not going to see that on this. Extremely aggressive and thick jimping up top. It's very sharp. This knife was not designed for just a regular Joe to EDC. This knife was designed for someone who was either, you know, outside in a hard work environment wearing gloves, or a soldier, or, I mean, he says that. He talks about it. If I understand this correctly, the Medford Praetorian tie was actually made, the first one was actually an accident. I think the T was designed before the tie. I don't know this for sure. I'm trying to remember. The T was designed, and it was, you know, thinner because it just made it more practical, and I think one of the dimensions got messed up, or something was an accident between the blade or the scales, and then they went ahead and just made a whole knife out of it, and this guy was born. And it got a lot of attention, so we decided to go ahead and make a model out of it. So I don't know if this was originally designed to be this thick, or if it was more of like a, haha, you know, it's pretty crazy, but the real one's going to be thinner. And it took off because it was around the time that the overbuilt knives were really, really popular. So anyways, moving down to the scales here, we have wonderfully chamfered scales. Everything is nicely rounded off. The new 6-shooter hardware looks excellent. I really like how that looks. I also really like these oversized screws they use on the scales. I like how the lugs fit, or the external stop pins fit into the scales on the outside. You can see here in the closed position, the lugs actually fit into another little garage zone up here, which is great. Moving down here, you do, of course, have the grooves that you see on all the Praetorians. Sometimes they're polished. These are tumbled like the rest of the blade. This is the tumbled bronze finish. We've got a little bit better light than when I unboxed it. So you can see these light tumbling marks all the way down the blade. Looks really, really nice. Back here on the breaker, I believe this is NP3 coated D2 on the breaker. This is a glass breaker that I would honestly trust. If I really had to break glass with something, I would trust that. I don't think I will ever use it, but if I had to, I would trust it. These newer ones do have the lanyard hole in the breaker, which I think is smart for anybody wanting to add a lanyard to this. I'm not going to. I'm not even going to carry it. You've got some nice oversized barrel spacers. By the way, I think the breaker... Yeah, the breaker is actually super thick, the way that everything fits into the blade. Well, the breaker actually might be 0.26 as well. Anyways, there's 2 standoffs here, and you have more aggressive jimping back here on the titanium. Equally sharp, very, very aggressive. Turning it over to the other side, we have the famous Medford pocket clip. Some people like it, some people don't. It is titanium. It does have decent retention on it. I have to admit, you know, I thought, you know, that pocket clip is super cool, but there is no way that that's going to come in and out of the pocket easy. Truthfully, guys, it does. I'm being honest. The pocket clip actually works really, really well, and it looks cool. I kind of like it. If I was going to carry it, I'd be pretty proud of that sticking out of my pocket. Not everybody is, but I would be. Now, these are pretty sharp, but again, keep in mind, this knife was designed to be used with gloves. That was the idea. And you can, if you want to get the full idea behind this knife and its design, you'll have to go watch the video on his channel. Whether or not you agree with it, you know, is entirely up to you. It's not, he doesn't, you know, change my thoughts of this knife one way or another. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. But anyways, the pocket clip does work really well. And as far as the overall thickness of the knife, yeah, it does add some thickness to it, but I mean, it certainly looks fitting. This pocket clip fits this knife, and compared to the rest of it, I'd say on this knife, on any other knife, it wouldn't be low profile. On this knife, it kind of is, because the rest of it is so tall and thick. We do have serialization up here, being that this is a newer variant, and that's going to match the serial number that's on the blade. You also, with these newer models, have the screws on both sides instead of one screw going all the way through. So these attach to the standoffs. If you were to strip the screw, then instead of having to replace the entire frame lock side, because you stripped out the threads in the frame lock, or the titanium, it would just strip out on the screw or the standoff, making it much easier to replace. This knife is not a knife that has a lock bar insert. It is not on bearings. This is on phosphor bronze, which honestly, there are people who called for bearings on the Praetorian tie. Why? Why? This is not a knife that needs bearings. This is a knife that's still being argued about as far as whether or not it's even practical to carry. Why would we need bearings on it? That doesn't make any sense. No, this knife, anybody who's going to use it is going to appreciate the fact that it's on phosphor bronze. It also doesn't need a steel lock bar insert. It just doesn't. Look at how much surface contact there is with the blade tang. This knife is locking up at about, it's settled in at about 25, maybe 20%. Let's look at the tang so you can see the mark. Yeah, that's where it's settled in there. This is the most solid lockup I have ever felt on a knife. I have never felt a knife that feels more secure on lockout than this thing. And that's simply due to the fact that you have such incredible thickness and weight bearing down on the back of these scales, and such an enormous thick lock bar that's contacting such an enormous part of the tang that has such incredible retention. I mean, it takes some force to move that thing out of the way. Yeah, sorry, Cold Steel fans. I don't know whose lock is stronger. I'm not here to discuss that. But as far as which feels more solid, there's nothing I have ever handled that has come anywhere close to the solid feeling of this Praetorian tie. I mean, obviously it's big and tall and thick and heavy, but the sound and feeling of this lockup is just ridiculous. It is, it's just crazy. I do find all of these features attractive, and that's the reason that I bought it. I also find most of them completely and totally unnecessary for almost everybody. I am not a soldier. I'm not in the military. I'm not a first responder. I'm not, police or anything like that. So I have even if I wanted to carry this, I'm not the target audience for this knife, and I have no experience using knives in that setting, and I can't say definitively whether this would offer some type of advantage. I have no idea. And there's also the fact with the warranty, and people are like, well, it's made to be this big heavy thing, but in the warranty it says you can't take it apart. I'm going to say the same thing that I said in the Slim MIDI review. I want you guys you can pause this video if you want, head over to Birdshot 4 or Frankie and Bird's channel and watch their video called 21 Questions with Greg Medford. Get to the part where he talks about the warranty, and I bet you most of you will be really pleasantly surprised to hear what he has to say about that. If you don't like Greg Medford, there's nothing I can do. If you don't like him, then, well, sorry, that's fine. You can think what you want. But if like the only thing that's holding you back from buying one of these and using it is the warranty, go over there and listen to what he has to say. I bet you'll be pleasantly surprised. Anyways, I can't say definitively whether or not this would be beneficial over, say, a PM2. In a setting like that. I have no idea. But as far as just a regular guy goes, like me, just walking out the door and going to work and sitting in an office and cutting open some letters, maybe some boxes, every now and then maybe some zip ties or things like that. Day to day, that's as heavy as it's going to get used. Can I justify this knife? No. No way. Anybody who's telling you that they can is kidding you. They're kidding you. The whole reason that I have this knife is because I am visually attracted to how it looks, and I like the dimensions of it. I think that it looks appealing to me, and there is this satisfaction holding it. I mean, it's just so, it gives you this feeling of power, despite me not actually having a practical means of, I'm never going to use it the way that it was intended. you know? But is it fun to hold and fun to play with? Yeah, definitely. It's super cool. It's crazy. And this is a kind of like a Knife World flagship model. You know, not only is it Medford's flagship model, but most people who are involved in the knife world, they look at this and they know exactly what it is. They say, that's a Praetorian. That's why I wanted to get my hands on it, because everybody knows what this is. Whether you like it or you hate it, you know. And that's what made Medford famous. People, even people talking about it. If you're ready to type your negative comment into the comment section of this video, go ahead. All you're doing is giving Medford more business. The more people talk about it, whether it's negative or positive, you know, that's the deal. That's what happens, you know? I mean, you kind of, there's a lot of products that work that way in the United States or in the world. You know, these companies, some of them even know that their products are going to be polarizing or have a negative impact on at least half the community, or maybe just a big chunk of it. But the fact that people talk about it at all brings attention to it. In fact, that's how I discovered this. I've told this story many times. I discovered the Praetorian and made my decision that I would own one after I found a thread started by somebody on Blade Forums who was complaining about Greg Medford and about how the knife design didn't make any sense. It didn't matter to me. I looked at that knife and I thought, that's really cool. I want that. Had that guy not made that thread or started talking about it, I would not have discovered it and been attracted to it for myself. And I think a lot of times people discover Greg Medford knives because there's a lot of positive talk about him too. Don't get me wrong. Lots and lots and lots of people love Medford knives. And Greg Medford has made some enormous steps here in the past few years to up his quality. He has catered to folks who are calling for thinner designs, smaller designs, you know, more EDC friendly designs, while still offering some of his famous overbuilt designs. He offers tons and tons of custom finishes, and I think that's good. Now, whether or not you agree with the prices on some of his stuff is an entirely different story. You're either prepared to pay for one of these things or you're not. In fact, the discussion video that I'm going to upload later on today is going to be about just that. Should you buy an expensive knife? Heavy quotes on expensive because it's different for everybody. But essentially the point here that I'm getting at is this exists. This thing is here and it's not going away. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do like it, then great. Either way, it's staying here and people are still buying it. The reason that I bought it is not to use it as a knife. It's because I'm a collector and I just wanted to have one. I like how it looks. Does it slice paper? Let me see here if I've got... I'll tell you what. Hang on with me, guys, for 1 second. I'm literally going to leave and get a piece of paper. 1 sec. I'm still talking if you can still hear me. I'm yelling all the way back to another one of my rooms here to get a piece of paper. Super unorthodox review. Not professional at all. But I am going to get a piece of paper because I promised that I would demonstrate this. Does this knife cut? Here we are. No editing tricks. Yeah, it does, guys. It does cut. It cuts pretty well. That's crazy. Here, look at this. Let me show you these slices. You know, it didn't slice them like a PM2. Let's make a cut with a PM2 right next to this. How am I going to do this where I can get there? It didn't cut it like a PM2. In fact, let me get a better one. So there's a slice. That's a PM2 slice, right? And here's the cut from the Medford. You can see the edges of the papers it's kind of folded over a little bit. But I wouldn't call it a tear. It's still a clean slice, you know? That's impressive. That tells me that it's not just, it's like he's thrown together some really thick materials and he's like, whatever. No, the final edge is actually really well done. And this is a hollow ground blade. Now, I can't speak for the Tanto. I can't remember how the T sliced, and it wasn't in the same dimensions. But as far as this tie drop point goes, yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised with that. It's not tearing even at the end. That's crazy. For those of you who stuck around for the 30-minute mark in this video, you can say, he actually did cut paper with it, and it worked. So if you're wondering, like, I'm reading all this stuff about Medford knives, and it's like people are like, you know, they don't cut. So this Praetorian tie, it couldn't possibly, you know, slice in these dimensions. Yes, it can. It can. Tell people. They do cut. So in that sense, yeah, this knife is going to cut things. Now, if you're trying to break down really thick cardboard boxes, here's what the hang-up's going to be. It's thick. You're going to be wedging through. It's going to slow you down. It's just not as practical as something like the Ritter Hogue or the PM2. It's just not. Plain and simple. It's not going to work. So there's no argument there. But as far as whether or not they cut, I've never understood why people say that. Of course they cut. If you see videos of them not cutting, I'm not convinced that the person who's cutting knows how to hold it or knows how to draw the belly of a blade through material. They definitely do. Now, is it going to whittle phone book paper or split hairs? I don't think so. But what are you doing with your knife where you need it, where you need that? I don't know. Maybe some people like really, really thin tomatoes on their sandwiches, but I don't. And I certainly wouldn't be trying to do it with a Praetorian tie. That makes no sense. Anyways, I'm trying to think of anything else we need to talk about on this knife before I kind of conclude here. If there's any topics that I didn't cover or things that you guys wanted me to talk about, I'm sorry if I didn't. Basically, what this comes down to is, because I'm sure you're wondering, can you recommend this knife? Can you honestly recommend it? No, I'm not going to recommend this knife to you guys. That doesn't make any sense. I can't tell you guys that it's going to be 100% worth spending $1,200 on this knife. What I am going to do is I'm going to put this knife on my favorite knives playlist, because it is. This knife brings me joy. If you guys remember my video, the Knife Guy episode that I did last week, I talked about anticipation and how 95% of the time, as soon as I unbox a knife, I've built it up to be this crazy thing in my head, and then I open it up and I'm like, oh, okay, it's pretty cool, but it's not quite what I expected. I'm a little bit let down. This knife was not that way. This knife was everything that I wanted it to be and more. I knew it wasn't a practical tool. I wanted it to be this big, crazy, hulking, monstrous conversation piece. And I was so excited to show it on the channel, and I love showing this thing to my friends. I love seeing their facial expression when I open this thing up. It's awesome. It's fun. It's weird. It's different. What else out there looks like the Praetorian tie? Nothing. This knife, that's why it's so easy to recognize. It is what it is. So I can tell you this. If you're a Medford fan, if you are already a Medford fan and you've bought one or maybe multiple of his knives in the $600 to $800 range, and you like the way the Praetorian tie looks, I'll tell you this, it's everything that you would want it to be. You'll be super happy if you decide to pull the trigger. I do not advise you go on the secondary market and pay $1,700 for one that you can get brand new for $1,200. I would say wait until you can get a good deal on the secondary market from a reputable dealer or somebody that you know and trust, or buy one directly from Medford. That's the best thing that you can do, is order one directly from him, because then you know it's going to be perfect. By the way, no lock stick on this guy whatsoever. Here, I'll let you listen. I'll even close it and open it up again. No lock stick. Sorry about that. I guess my phone decided I was just done recording. But anyways, as I was trying to demonstrate, I think a lot of people are nervous about lock stick on these big titanium frame locks that don't have lock bar inserts, but that's not the case with this. In fact, I've only ever had lock stick on one Medford, and this is my 5th or 6th Medford now, and all the new ones seem to be really good, and they have no hint of it whatsoever. Taking a look at the centering, it is absolutely dead centered. You saw the lockup percentage. There is no blade play up, down, left, or right. Honestly, I don't think it's possible. You literally have to unscrew the pivot. This is the type of knife that feels like you'd have to, fix it to a landmine and then hit both the knife and the landmine with a sledgehammer and completely destroy it. Obviously, I'm joking. I'm not being serious, but really, it seems to lock up that hard. Something that I want to point out in general is that fit and finish is exceptional on this knife all the way around. I think Medford knives have this. I don't know. It's not a truth, but I think people look at them and they see how big and thick and overbuilt and aggressive they are, and they just assume clunkiness or awkwardness, and then that translates to people's mind that the fit and finish isn't going to be good. And the truth is that while they are big and thick and overbuilt and aggressive, they are put together insanely well. you are paying for a partially handmade premium knife. And all of the hardware is going to be finished well. All of the, the blade, I mean, excuse my fingerprints, but the blade's going to be finished well. The hardware is going to be set and finished very, very well. You're not going to have ugly gaps, Handle screws, same thing. The finish on the scales. As far as, symmetry goes, you are going to get a symmetrical blade. You're going to get symmetry in the scales. I mean, the tolerances are all there. You're getting premium tolerances all the way around. And things are going to be set in the way that they should be. We should talk about ergonomics here real quick, as I struggle to open this. As far as whether or not the knife locks in, it does. It's basically, what's happening here is that the knife is just filling out my hand. There is a lot to hang on to. Part of that is due to the thickness of the scales and the dimensions of everything, and part of it is due to the fact that you do have some kind of extreme lines and curvatures and texturing. Up here, all the way around is really smooth. This is all nice. This isn't aggressive. There's this nice part back here where your hand can lock in if you want to hold it here or if you're going to do some chopping. There's even kind of arguably a little forward choil area where if you're going to do some extremely detailed work with your Praetorian tie, maybe you can lock in right there. But ergonomically it's okay. But this jimping up here is very aggressive. The knife is balanced, but due to the curvature of this part right here, I can't really demonstrate it very well. The balance point is about right here, which is right about where your finger is going to go on this knife. So yeah, it is balanced. It does fit in the hand. I wouldn't call it an ergonomic masterpiece, but you can definitely hang on to it. Somebody who's wearing gloves and using this knife as it should be is not going to have a problem with it. It's going to lock in just fine, but don't expect it to be, like the Spyderco shim, and it's just contoured and just kind of it just melts so perfectly into my bare hand. That's not really what you're looking at here. That's not what it was designed for. He wasn't hoping everybody would think it was exactly the same ergonomic experience as a Spyderco shim, and then it just ended up like, whoops. No, it was designed this way on purpose. It's gonna, your hand's gonna lock into it. It's just not gonna be the most comfortable thing in your bare hand. Let me say this again. This is very sharp. It was designed to be very sharp. It is not comfortable. It was designed to, maximize traction with gloves. That's just the way that it is. I think that's honestly everything that I can possibly talk about with this knife. We're still breaking in a little bit there. And, breaking in a Medford is an experience in and of itself. It is satisfying for these things to get smoother and smoother and smoother with every open and close. It is, to me, it's kind of therapeutic. Each Medford has had its own, set amount of time that was a little bit different, and it's kind of fun feeling it open. Oh, it's getting a little smoother today. Oh, it's nice. Oh, I can finally open it with one hand. Eventually, it'll be insanely smooth. All of the ones that I have owned in the past were actually able to deploy or even flick out with one hand. I don't expect to accomplish that with this knife, given how enormous and thick it is, and I don't think that was ever really intended in its design, but I am excited to see how smooth that it gets. That, honestly, guys, is about all I can cover. I'm not going to really go into the details of the warranty. That's been thoroughly discussed online. If you want to take a look at that paper, you can find it on Google pretty easily. But again, I do urge you to go check out that video on Frankie and Bert's channel, the 21 questions with Greg Medford, and listen to what he has to say about his own warranty. I promise you, you'll be surprised. I know I've already said it, but you'll be surprised. I think this is the longest video I've ever done. So God bless you if you stuck around till the end. But that's honestly every last little thing I can say about this knife. I love it. It brings me an enormous amount of joy. It was one of the very few knives that I've ever purchased where it was actually even better than anything I could conceive in my head before I had it in hand. I will have this knife for a very long time. I can't say that I'll absolutely have it forever. I don't want to say that anymore because I said that about the Harpoon Spanto and it's got sold to buy this guy. But this is going to be around for a long time. Expect to see it on the channel a lot and used, examples and comparisons. I imagine it'll become kind of a character on this channel as some other knives have become. But I really, truly enjoy this thing. Anybody, like I've said, anybody who's considering it, if you're already in this world, I think this knife will bring you a lot of joy. So while I can't 100% recommend it to everybody, it is something that I know that a lot of people will have that enjoyment with. So anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video or you at least found it entertaining, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check that stuff out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.